an egomaniac that says that Israel should be wiped off the face of the earth. He's telling you what he will do. He's giving you a forecast of what he'll do. And I think we have to play hardball, and I think he laughs at night at the leader of the free world. China, obviously, that's our fault. We're spending more money than we've got, and we've pushed we've pushed factories away to where they can't make products here. We've created that problem.
Thank you. Final question. Ms. Olshner will be the first to address this. How should the funding, direction, and management of our educational system be handled on a federal, state, and/or local level?
I really believe that the federal government should get out of education. I really think that it should be put back into the states. I think the states should control. I think parents are the most concerned people about the education of their children and about teachers. And I really think that you should give the local communities and states the right to provide for their education. I think the federal government should stay out of it. The federal government's #1 priority is to provide for defense. Let the federal government do what the Constitution says it's supposed to do. Let the states do what they can do. The government is too large. It doesn't work. We don't have to bash them about it. It just, quite frankly, doesn't work. So when it's broken, you fix it. This is an area where we could easily give to the states and let them handle it. They would do a much better job. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Mr. Sutherland.
I agree. I think that the federal government has no business. I don't think they have constitutional authority. I didn't dream that up. There is a Constitution. I think we need to honor it. And I think departments like the Department of Education, the Department of Energy, the EPA, I think those are things that right now we can't afford. And in business, if we can't afford it, we don't buy it. There's a lot of problems. There's a lot of money being spent in Washington, D.C. that we could eliminate if we cut. And those are some of the departments I would cut right there. Horace Mann, back in the mid-1800s, many is referred to as the father of modern day education. And if you do a little study on Mr. Mann, you'll learn that his sole desire was to make sure that our children would know more about secular humanism than they would reading, writing, and arithmetic. And I would tell you that in his grave, that he must be smiling, because that's what we've done. We've ripped God out of school, the Judeo-Christian God that our forefathers referenced 4 times in that declaration. We've ripped him out of the school, and we only call upon him when somebody goes into a school and shoots our innocent children, and then we ask him to meet us at the pole. You know what? I believe that our education system in many ways is incompetent. The federal government is in charge of it. It needs to be pushed back to the states and to the counties and to the local communities. Reagan said government governs best when it governs closest to the people. And our children are our most important asset. And we know best. I know my 4 children better than anybody else. And I need to have say. And I don't want them getting indoctrinized into human secularism. And that's what's happening in this country.
Thank you. Mr. Shaw.
I think what we've seen from the Department of Education is complete failure. When it was instituted back in 1965, here we are, multiple years later. We have not increased graduation rates 1%. We have not increased the math or the verbal ACT, SATs 1%. And that's their track record. No effect whatsoever. But this year alone, we're going to see $77 billion in the President's budget for next year. $77 billion allocated to the Department of Education. And what are they doing with that money? Primarily goes to repay individuals that supported Obama. He's going to use that to reward their states. So I'd like to see us do away with the Department of Education. Take them out of the loop. Leave that money here in the States. We're lucky in Florida. Now, when I recruited for the Air Force Academy, I spent a lot of time in our high schools. I live over in Okaloosa County, and we're very lucky. Alexis Tibbetts is our supervisor of education, and she does a fantastic job. And we need to get competition back into education. If your son or daughter or grandson, granddaughter, whatever, is in a failing school, they need a voucher. They need to go to a school that will tend to their needs, and that gets the parent involved. because that's the key to good schools, parental involvement. If you're involved at home, that kid knows when he's sent off to school, he's got to pay attention. So we need to have vouchers. And in this day and age, electronic learning via the internet, these kids are on the computer all the time. If there's a great teacher on the internet that he can log on to and learn from, who cares if he's actually in that classroom physically with that teacher? These children are so adept at learning with computers. Why not take the best teachers and put them out there to all the kids? I think that'll bring success to our educational system, not wasting federal dollars.
Thank you. And we now take a breath, and then we get to the final portion of the evening. We'll have 2 minutes for each of you to wrap up your positions, to do your closing remarks, and make any comments as appropriate, following the rotation that we've had all evening. Mr. Sutherland, you're first.
I've shared this before, that in 1787, as Benjamin Franklin exited the hall, he was asked, "Mr. Franklin, what type of government did you give us?" And he responded and he said, "A republic, if you can keep it." It is incumbent upon us, you, me, to keep it. That freedom is something you are born with. Liberty is the expectation and the exercising of that freedom. Oh, we enjoy our freedoms here in this country. We do. But we just don't like the hard work of expressing liberty. Because with liberty, there is expectations. Rolling up our sleeves, fighting for the right that the next generation would be free. Chris Ann, you know all about that. You know about a government that would want to rob you of your freedom and put handcuffs upon you to prevent you from exercising liberty. In this nation, this year, we will make a decision, and it will be a critical decision. It is so critical, it is the only thing that would allow me, that would make me, motivate me to leave my marriage to a woman that I started first grade with, and leave my home with the 4 daughters and the businesses that I love, living in paradise. The only thing that would motivate me to leave is what weighs in the balance if I don't. It is a republic if we can keep it. I need your support. I need you to vote for Steve Sullivan. And I promise you, I will lead with distinction. May God bless you, and may God bless America.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz.
I want to thank Carl and the Suwannee Republicans, and I appreciate you folks coming out here tonight and letting us bend your ear and listening to us. You know, as I was driving over here this afternoon with my wife Shelley, I was reflecting back on the journey that brought me to this stage. You know, I've been lucky. Early in life, I found my passion and purpose. I stood up in Mrs. Walsh's 2nd grade class, and I said, I'm going to go to the United States Air Force Academy. I'm going to fly fighters in the United States Air Force. Now, Bobby Gordon laughed at me. I think that's what motivated me more than anything. But I chose at a young age to make a difference for good on a daily basis, to serve something beyond myself. And it was an example that my father set for me. And I'm glad I made that decision. You know, I was able to, God answered my prayers. He answered the prayers of a young boy, allowing him to achieve his dreams as a man. And for 28 years, I was able to support, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. And I always thought the enemies would be foreign. And I think we all know right now, not only are they inside the borders with the war on terror, but we're also seeing a leftist, liberal, progressive agenda out of Washington. Ladies and gentlemen, I need your vote on August 24th. I need your vote on November 2nd. Because on those critical days, we're going to take the fight to Alan Boyd. You've heard my mission brief. You know what I'm about. I need you with me. I want you to strap in with me. I want you to put your helmet on, put your mask on tight. Because on those dates, we're going to send a message around the United States that we in the 2nd District of Florida We will stand up for our freedoms and our liberty. But more important, we're going to send a message to Alan Boyd. We're going to blow him out of his seat. And you know why? He's a criminal. Taxation without representation. It's as old as the United States. Thank you much.
Thank you. And Ms. Olshner, please hold on the phone.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. It's been a nice evening. I appreciate you having us here, and I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate the concern that we all have. My gentlemen have picked, I call them my gentlemen competitors because usually they are. They picked on me tonight about being a lawyer, and so I'm going to address that a little bit to you. You all know the phrase in Shakespeare about the first thing we do is kill all the lawyers, and I've even seen it sometimes on T-shirts. That phrase was uttered by a man who wanted to overthrow the government. He was Machiavellian, he was dangerous, he had powers of persuasion, wit and charm, and he said, let's kill all the lawyers because they're the guardians of liberty and the guardians of truth. They know the law. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm in this fight for one reason and one reason only. I don't think they need to make light of what I've done for 30 years. I wouldn't be critical of them or pretend I could fly a plane or run a funeral business better than they could, and maybe it's a man thing, but I don't think they really mean to make fun of me. I'm one of the preeminent women lawyers in this country. I'm entitled to argue cases in front of the United States Supreme Court. I think, quite simply, that we're in the fight of our lives. I think it's an emergency, and if we were in an emergency situation over the Atlantic, I would not let Steve Sutherland near that cockpit. I would make David fly that plane, and every one of you in here would say, no, I don't care, Steve, if you've got 100 hours. David is the man. We're in an emergency time in this country. We can't have learning on the job about our law or our Constitution. Our very rights and privileges and our freedoms are at stake. I'm going to ask for your vote, but only for one reason. Only if you think that we're in an emergency situation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks to everybody here. Now, let's have a round of applause for all of you. I want to thank you for coming out, and thanks to everybody for the civility of this evening. All three of the candidates will be available outside.